Okay, we can build on that for a second. What do most African Americans and minorities in general do in the economy in the 1930s? Go ahead.
Agriculture.
Good. Now, one of the most important New Deal programs, the Social Security Act, gives old people a pension to retire on at age 65. Big deal. Except it doesn't apply to farm workers. Farm workers don't get a paycheck, so you can't tax that paycheck, and therefore they can't. Therefore, down the line, farm workers don't get Social Security. Who are most farm workers? Minorities and the rural poor. It also doesn't benefit household service industries, maids and nannies and the like. Who are most of those people? Minorities. Good. Thank you, Sarah. Who else benefits from the New Deal Ventura?
It benefited the unemployed.
Good. It benefited the unemployed. How?
Because there was like, despite not like fully employing everybody, most people were like, were getting accepted into simple jobs.
Good. Such as? What kind of programs benefited jobs? Give me some specifics. Help them out.
Like the AAA, for instance.
Cool. AAA. Good. What does that one do?
It employs people to like work with conservation.
Sure. And the CCC for conservation?
Oh, true.
Cool. Agreed. Who else benefits from this New Deal? Jesus.
National government.
Ooh, the national government benefits. How so, sir?
It enhanced their power and it made people look up to them to know how to do things.
Two huge factors there. Absolutely. It enhances the power of the national government. That leads us nicely to our prompt, our question for today. Thank you, sir. Which branch of the government specifically? You don't know?
Not sure.
Vargas, what do you think?
I'm thinking more of the executive,
Why do you say so?
because the president still have the power since he asked for war power.
Ah. He asked for a power. Did he receive it?
Yeah.
Did he get to do whatever the hell he wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it enhances the power of the executive, and it changes the role of the government in people's eyes. As for the first time in American history, they're looking to their government to solve their problems for them. It's the idea of the creation of a welfare state. Absolutely. Good. Good, good, good. So now to our second brief discussion. What is the significance of the New Deal? Why does the New Deal matter in American history? I'll give you the same minute to chat, but this time I want the person farthest from the door to talk first. 30 seconds each, 1 minute, go.
So just like how majority like
Get a broken cap?
so it enhances the national government. So with like agencies, so it sets the president with like a welfare state, which gives the government the responsibility to provide services for the people.
Kind of the same thing with that transform society to national government.
Why does it matter?
Kind of benefit the economy.
Yeah. So it's
All right, 30 seconds up. Trey, when your thought is done.
So it's like how you were saying, like the people have on the government to help resolve like issues, to fulfill their needs.
I know.
You get it going?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm tech stupid. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and halt. Come to you in a second. Rodas, why does it matter? Why is this New Deal significant?
It enhanced the power of the national government.
Okay? Be more specific, because you're very right.
It created like agencies to control like production in farms and companies.
Yes, huge deal. Controlling production. The AAA and the NRA, not the rifle NRA, remember, it's the National Recovery Act. Yeah, is telling people how much they can produce. Rodas, is that democratic and is that capitalist? For the government to tell you what you can produce? No. No, so it changes, this word is very important. The amount of things the government controls. Rodas.
The significance behind it was that this is the first couple of acts in a while that tries to like help out with the Great Depression for the people.
Okay? It's the first creation of a welfare state, I think is what you're saying. Where the government's trying to help people. Good. Thank you for volunteering, yes?
Despite the agencies made towards improving the economy, the Great Depression was still not.
Cool. So it still didn't fix the Great Depression. Abs, what did? What actually fixes? What?
War, the coming of the next war.
Yeah, the coming of the next war. Good. Adrian, why else is the New Deal significant?
I guess it eased the Great Depression.
Cool. Right? It eased the Great Depression. I'll give you that. Absolutely. And then that's back to the power of the government that Roros is talking about. That now we look to the government to ease our problems when we have problems. So that doesn't happen before. Right? If you're poor during the Gilded Age, do you look at the government to help you? Laissez-faire. Exactly. The government leaves you the hell alone. Good. Josh, one more thing. Why does it matter? And then we'll move on. You right there?
Yeah. I think it's also because I think it's significant because it wouldn't have been passed if FDR didn't have the war.
Okay. So why is that? What's the significance there?
Well, then if there wasn't like the increase in like executive power, then this wouldn't have like eased the depression.
Good. Without the increase in executive power, the New Deal doesn't happen the way it does. And that leads us really nicely into today's conversation, actually, about some of these critiques of the New Deal. The loss of credibility for the New Deal with court packing. And then the legacy the New Deal leaves behind. And then what role the Great Depression plays in the U.S. remaining isolationist at the outbreak of World War II. So today's lesson is titled The New Deal's Critiques, the criticisms of the New Deal. We'll look at two specific ones that I think are right on point. The New Deal's legacies, what changes, what's the significance, what matters long term. And then once we wrap up and assess on that with your thesis statements and your short answer question practice, we'll look at how we stay isolationist in name only in the shadow of World War II. And that'll be just the last 30 minutes of class as we segue in between New Deal and World War II into Wednesday and Thursday. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, your Period 7 test is a week from today. I know, but then guess what? We have one unit left and we're done with APUSH. Yeah, we have like 8 lectures left and you guys are done for the year. Done! I know, it's scary, and it's exciting, and it's worrisome. That's why I sent you guys that email yesterday. All right? I'm going to keep reminding you guys that these tests don't pass themselves. You have to stay diligent. You got to stay on your A game. You got to stay productive. You got to stay ready, then you don't have to get ready. All right? You don't have to review your ass off the last 2 weeks before the test if you've been staying in your A game all year. All right? Don't forget, these videos are online to help you. That's what they're there for. But for those of you that missed, that's what I sent the email last night. Those of you that missed class last week for the college trip, I'm super glad you went. I hope it was an eye-opening experience. I hope you come back with motivation that this is what college looks like. That's what success in college looks like. And also make sure you please double review those videos from last week because last week's lessons on the New Deal really, 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 really matter. Cool? Cool, cool. All right, let's get to work. Your key concepts are the same as Thursday because we're closing out the Great Depression, closing out the New Deal in terms of redefining the goals and what America looks like. And here is our prompt for the day. Lady Vargas, can you read it for us, please?
Evaluate the extent to which the New Deal changed the role of the federal government in the economy and society in the years 1932 to 38.
Beautiful. So we have those 3 types of prompts we need to prepare ourselves for. Causation, comparison, continuity, and change. Take 30 seconds with your partner. What type of prompt is this? What type of prompt do we need to be planning to respond to this prompt with? Because you're actually going to be writing it today. So get your head around it. Chat it out. What kind of prompt is this? And what do you need to do to successfully ATFP? All right? Go. Good. Then we also look at to do no answer.
In effect, because you're saying, how do you change how it's
It's basically asking how much evaluate
yeah, which you
What kind of prompt?
by like answering the prompt, you can either do cause and effect or I think it's continuity.
All right. Stop you guys there. Georgie, a chance to redeem yourself for that terrible answer earlier. What type of prompt is this? Okay, cool. It's continuity and change. And then keep going, George. What do you have to do to ATFP? First of all, remind us all what ATFP stands for. Full prompt. Good. Right. We got it. It's classroom appropriate, right? Answer the full prompt. What do you have to do? Just from a brief overview snapshot, what do you have to do to be able to answer this prompt correctly? Okay. Cool. Now, Scarlett, if you just talked about change, could you get the thesis point? Why?
Yeah, because it's only asking for change, not continuity.
Excellent. Carlo, what would you have to do to get that extra argumentation point on the rubric? Talk about continuity. Good. Or talk about synthesis, or talk about other places and time periods and exact. So as I read a lot of your writing, you're doing a good job of answering the full prompt. I'm proud of that. But if we want to get that extra analysis point, we've got to either talk continuity or compare the New Deal, for example, to the Progressive Era or laissez-faire economics. Cool? So here's our outline for the day. Reactions we'll start with. Does the New Deal do too much? Does it do not enough? Then we'll go into court packing and credibility, what that looks like for the Supreme Court. I'll make you guys do a math lesson. It's going to be kind of a challenge. Addition and subtraction is not your strong suit in APUSH. Y'all can do calculus in fifth period. You come to third period, you guys can't even add and subtract. We'll work on it today. We'll see how we do. We'll look at why the New Deal ends, when, where, and for what. What's the legacy? And then once we assess here, we'll move into foreign policy and isolationism in a volatile or blowing up world as World War II breaks out. So I have in front of you two very important critiques of the New Deal, one from a conservative standpoint, one from a liberal standpoint. The conservatives are going to tell us, oh my God, it's socialism, it's crazy, we got to go back to the way things were. Liberalism would argue the opposite. It doesn't do enough. We should do more to make sure more people are assisted and helped. So what I'm going to give you guys is 5 minutes and 30 seconds for just the first text. Just the conservative critique on the left-hand side. My hands are full, I apologize. Where it says, conservative critique, Jouet Schaus, president of the American Liberty League, in a radio address. So it's a quick to the point read because it's a radio address. It's a radio speech. And of course, it's using the same medium that FDR uses to reach all of his people with his fireside chats. So you're going to have 6, and if you look at the back of the page, it gives you a space. Why did this particular conservative critique the New Deal? And is that critique justified? So I'm going to give you 5:30 total to read and respond. Then I'll give you a minute to share with your partner, then we'll break it out as a class, and then we'll do the exact same thing for the liberal. So you have 5:30. I need you reading, I need you annotating, I need you answering that specific question. Why are they critiquing the New Deal, and is this critique a justified critique given the historical context? Time's ticking, get reading, and I'll break it down as we go, yes? Yeah, of course. Skin your fat. It's very unsuperficial of you. I appreciate that. Quiz. But I have that's part of the text as well. I'm angry about this. It's easier to put in the grade book. Stupid ass 4 points. So why is this person critiquing the New Deal? Is this critique justified? Thank you for reading for now. productively. I know. Got a little under 3 minutes left. Keep it up. What is his critique? What part of the New Deal is he upset about? Is it justified? If you need somebody else from me, it can't be Burger Camp because he's in here.
It's not, but it's more than one. Yeah. Diana Dominguez,
I like her though.
Juliana Romero.
She's not in this class.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yesenia.
Okay.
Terry.
How you like to get him out of here?
That's a good question. Maeli.
What's going on?
Abigail Vargas.
No. She said no. Demanding her stay.
Let's go. We need 2 at a time. That's where we at.
Yeah.
We need 2 at a time.
What?
I'll let her know.
That's fine.
Alright.
So yeah, just.
Is that everybody?
Yeah.
All right. First 2, whoever is raising their hand. Diana and my lovely. Oh, you said it. Go ahead.
Yesenia and Diana.
Miley doesn't want to leave. All right, minute 30. Get back on task. Get 1 minute. What is his critique? Is his critique justified? Yeah. 40 seconds. You're still responding on your own. What kind of abuses? What kind of abuses? Is there anything else happening in the world that might tell us this thing is worrisome? So take 30 seconds, make sure you wrap up your written response. What is the critique? Is it justified? Then I'll let you share with your partner. If you didn't quite finish reading the whole thing, that's okay. I'm sure you get the idea of what the conservative critique is, just based on the first 4 stanzas. Good. Good. It's not bad. All right, break it down with your partner. Take 30, please. What is this critique? So when I call on you, you have a reasonable response for what this conservative is upset about with the New Deal. Time is ticking. Chat it out. Go.
Oh, wait, hold on, turn it on. She's missing a partner.
She's flying solo.
I would argue that this thing that is doing too much because it expands like the Northern authority because it carries on like the socialistic field of like
All right, fantastic responses. I heard good stuff. Yesenia. Oh, my bad.
Bear down, man.
Throw it down. Ramos, you're smiling. Talk to me. What is one of the critiques of the New Deal according to this conservative perspective?
He states that the New Deal represents the attempt in America to set up a totalitarian government.
Totalitarian. I can't even spell it today. A totalitarian government. How so? How does this critique point out the fact that our government is becoming, in his words, more totalitarian? Barajas, go ahead.
Oh, okay. He says that they have given too much power to the executive.
Swear to God, Mr. Beersby. Wilding upstairs. Hey. Keep going.
And he said that Roosevelt has set up new instruments of public power admittedly dangerous in the hands of people who might misuse this power.
So it's a dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this critique justified? Let me ask this another way. Have we given an unprecedented amount of power to the executive in this case? Yeah. What's happening in Europe at the same time that might worry some Americans?
Hitler's taking over, like he's becoming a dictator,
Okay.
conquering like other countries.
Go ahead.
No, just like what he said, the rising of like fascist dictators.
Who else?
Mussolini,
Mussolini. Who else?
Francisco Franco.
Francisco Franco, Stalin, and in Asia, Tojo. So we see in other countries them rising from the ashes of depression into a dictatorial state. Fairly legitimate critique. Want this? What other critiques does he give of the New Deal? Haven't heard me today. Yeah, we've raised our taxes. Why is he upset about that? Okay, what's the government doing with all this tax money?
He says that they're wasting it on like welfare and like public works and stuff.
Wasting on welfare, public works.
Propaganda machines.
Propaganda machine. I showed you guys that on Thursday, those posters, that all they're doing is they're treating this like a war, financially, which is also justified. Do you have something else to add? Please, by all means.
He says that the New Deal has destroyed the export market for American agricultural products when in reality they're just limiting the amount of produce that they produce.
Are they limiting how much they produce?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that now we're having a hard time selling it elsewhere? Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
He says that they increase national debt.
What?
Increase national debt.
Increase the national debt. Did we increase the national debt? Yeah. So these conservative critiques are arguing that the government has done too much and has little to show for it. Go ahead.
Just like the cartoon that you showed us from last class, they critique it by giving the New Deal a negative connotation because they perceive it as like communist in a sense by expanding like the government's role in society.
Yep. By expanding the government's role in society. Is that not our essay prompt today? How much did they increase the power of government to change the role of government in economy and society? Excellent. Good job, guys. So you're going to do the same thing with a name that should be familiar from last Thursday. Our good friend, who Valerie really enjoyed his name, Huey Long. Wait, is his name actually Huey? Yes, his name is Huey. It's the reason he got assassinated. So, it's not the reason. But, he has a more liberal critique that argues that potentially the government isn't doing enough to fix the problems of the Great Depression. I'm going to have you do the exact same thing in the exact same amount of time. This one's a little longer, though, so pick up the pace. All right, get reading, get aggressive. And you have in the same place, you'll answer where you answered the first one, which is underneath. Why did this particular liberal critique the New Deal, and then is that critique justified? 5:30, get cracking. Go. minutes. Is that what it is? It's not time for scholar to scholar. That's better. Don't you guys miss lobbying about this?
I mean, I still do.
4 minutes. What is this individual's critique of the New Deal, and is that critique justified? We'll have 3.5 minutes left. Who's next? Well, we'll send Terry for last. Marielle and who? Cheer up. Who else? Marielle and Abigail? Go ahead. Sorry. You be right back. Make it quick. Sprint. Knees to the chest. There's a little, about 90 seconds left. So look at this critique. What is the critique? Is it justified? How far away did you get before you realized you know where you're going? Corvos. Upstairs. Administration office upstairs. That's the stairs there. Now what? All right, 30 seconds, finish skimming. What is this critique in general? Is it justified? Get the idea. Put a pen to paper. 10 seconds. I dig it. All right, so take 10 more. Make sure you put pen to paper and get a quickly responded response. And I'll be right to help you out. Cool. So take a minute, same way, share it with your partner, one person first, then the other. I don't care who starts, as long as both of you get to speak. What is this critique? There's a couple of them in there. And is this critique justified on the other side of things? Time's ticking. Go. So,
So I just put that the liberal critique of the deal as a positive enforcement to balance the unequal distribution of wealth to help decline the percentage of mass
so you're looking at it like this, like,
It's basically like going against the idea of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer to help like
everybody
stop,
here,
to help prevent the cycle from repeating itself.
but what if we put them there and expect them to there? They're still rich, and they're at least a little more comfortable. Like, I don't want to divide wealth equally. That's crazy. We should all have the same. But we should probably Scarlett, it's like Thursday. We talked about it. That's gonna topple. Remember?
I remember.
4 seconds. 3, 2. I'm dying. Hector, speak to me, please, sir. What is this? What is a critique embedded in this text? Distribution of wealth. What is he upset about regarding the distribution of wealth? Legitimate critique or no? Pretty much. Go ahead.
I was saying that this reminds me of the gospel of wealth because he's saying
Damn,
that
girl.
you don't necessarily need to have like that extra amount of money and you can still live a comfortable and wealthy life even with like it was 50 million probably.
Yeah. Like, tax everything above a certain point.
Yeah, and then he's saying how it leads to an unfair advantage because if he doesn't use that money in a lifetime, it ends up benefiting future generations, and then it keeps the cycle of the top 10%, and it doesn't help the poor.
And that's why I became a teacher, because I was so tired of being poor that I wanted to make sure I was poor forever. My kids would also be poor. But you're right. Super legitimate point, and well referenced to the idea of the gospel of wealth. Whereas Carnegie would have said, I have enough money, I should give some away. I don't think Carnegie would have wanted to be taxed on his money at a certain point. But does he want to distribute the wealth equally to everybody? No. Well, I was talking over here with Amber, and he doesn't want everyone to be the same, but he looks at the rich are up here and the poor down here in an unlivable condition. Why can't we drop them down a couple levels and bump them up a couple levels so they have a comfortable living experience? Interesting. What other critiques does he make? Because well done, very well done, very well done. I'm in a good mood now. What other critiques does he make of the New Deal? Let's see if I can stay in this good mood. Steph, have a meeting today. Everyone gets called on, it's only a matter of time.
I would think that the fact that he's saying that it's changed around in economic business, how businesses are, I don't know, becoming smaller because it's just changed around together, and it's not really like benefiting people.
The New Deal is not benefiting all the people. What about overproduction? What does he have to say about overproduction? As everyone scrambles into their papers, I like it. Go ahead, Holmes.
Got too much cotton.
Yeah.
Wheat, corn, potatoes.
No such thing as too much potatoes. I'm Irish. Too much stuff. So let's talk about this for a second. He talks about, like, we have the problem, economically speaking, for us isn't that we don't have enough stuff as a society, it's that we have too much stuff and not enough money to buy that stuff. Go.
He points out that there is no competition between businesses and how people can't make a profit from owning a business because there is that like top class of business owners.
So much Gilded Age era-esque critique in this piece. Abso-freaking-lutely. So let's take a step back to last week, what were some of the causes of the Great Depression? Give me one, Josh. Causes.
The stock market.
Stock market crash, sure. More of a spark than a cause, but okay, I'll give that to you. Adrian, cause. Overproduction, good. Rodas, cause. Go.
The overuse of credit.
Credit, good. Scarlett, cause.
Would it be like high tariffs?
Tariffs, good.
Mister,
Yes,
I'm back. We
good.
want Terry and Ventura.
Terry and Ventura, excellent. Go and go. Terry, stay. Ventura, go. Go.
Limitation on immigrants.
Yeah, limits on immigrants, good. Anything else, Reed?
Oh no, banks what's it called? Investing in the stock market.
Banks investing in the stock market, good job. So of these, what is Huey Long pointing out has not yet been addressed? Go. Overproduction. So we haven't addressed that thing. We're still producing too much, we just can't get our hands on it. What else is he pointing out has not been addressed? Ramos. You guys missed one of the main causes, is the big idea here. You were here on Thursday? Scarlett, help him out.
Wouldn't it be like, I don't know why, but I'm thinking of like the failure of like Taylorism, but not that.
Not necessarily. What's the other main big cause of the Great Depression? Credit, yes. But why do you say, go ahead. Go ahead. Take a shot. What happens if you're wrong? No, it's not up there yet, no.
Just so like the decline of businesses like agriculture and textiles.
What was that?
The decline of business.
Decline of business, yes. You guys are missing the distribution of wealth. The rich having too much purchasing power, well, and the poor not having enough. Has the New Deal done anything to address that? No. So that's that critique, and then to an extent that is justified because FDR and the New Deal did nothing to fix that problem. Good. So textually speaking, it's important that we understand the critiques on both sides, the left and the right, of this New Deal. Some arguing it does too much, some arguing it does not do enough. Cool. So getting into instruction itself, it's important that we note. Oh, why does it look like that? Marius, what'd you do?
Didn't they have an income tax?
Yes. Cool. So shortly after FDR takes office, we repeal Prohibition. I mentioned it on Thursday, but it matters here as well because it's the first time we've ever overridden a previous amendment. So we end the 18th Amendment, the limiting and legalization of alcohol, with the 21st Amendment. A lot of it is for financial reasons. Right? The government looks at this and says, like, have we stopped people from drinking? No. Have we stopped people from selling alcohol? No. So should we regulate and tax and profit out of alcohol? Yeah. Right? To my point on Thursday, like, economically speaking, if everyone's going to be broke, we might as well make some tax money, they can be drunk in the process. Right? Great Depression 101. So this black market for alcohol has increased violence. We don't have the money to pay big police forces to enforce this. So because of a lot of economic and social factors of the Great Depression, we repealed the 18th Amendment, we get the 21st Amendment. It's the only time we've ever repealed a previous amendment with a new amendment ending Prohibition. Now, I ended class Thursday with this idea of FDR's popularity and therefore the New Deal's popularity. So the high point of the New Deal's public opinion reflection is the election of 1936. Roosevelt runs for his first re-election, and as you can see, he wins by a very close margin. A very, very close margin of 523 to 8. Yeah, that's pretty good. Running against Landon, the Republican, winning not just a lot electorally speaking, but over 11 million popular vote. But like most other presidencies, the second term has more setbacks than the first term. First term is this honeymoon phase. Everything is good. We're all in this together. Life is grand. Second term often has a lot of setbacks. Now, FDR is unique because he also has a third term and a fourth term. The only person in American history to have more than 2 terms. But we'll get into that more at the tail end of this week. You saw this on Thursday as well, but it's a good reminder for what the public thinks. I know you love the poster. It'll be there after class. I love the poster too. It's beautiful. It's got colors and everything. Life is good. This also has colors, George? Mostly red. So in this case, we see Landon winning the important states of Vermont and Maine and nothing else, demonstrating, because this matters a lot for what we're doing going forward, that public opinion is very, very, very firmly behind FDR. Very firmly. The significance of this election is this new Democratic coalition. I love party systems. You may hate them. I don't care. It's my class. So it's important that this demonstrates a new voting bloc for the Democrats, that for the first time, which of these groups is voting Democrat? Take 20 seconds to talk to your partner. We have new Democratic coalition. That's the South, the West, urban workers, labor unions, ethnic groups, black people, and poor people. Which of these is new in the 1930s? 30 seconds, chat. Go. Urban have always been Democrat. Terry, who?
No?
What? That really? Is black people voting Democrat on this? Tell me, which one of these is new? You think? Why do you say?
Because it's the
I'm talking about like 4 or 8 years prior. Yeah, it's kind of all American history. All right, let me stop here. I know it's a tough question, but it helps us understand this realignment. I know it's hard. Party systems are complicated. Josh, which of these Democratic groups is new to the 1930s? The black voters. Why?
Because prior to this, they were more Republican.
Why were they more Republican prior to this?
Because like the sectionalism, the North was like more in favor of like black rights.
Sure. What else have Republicans done for black rights? Go ahead.
Lincoln's presidency, that's when they started voting Republican. It feels more to them.
Yeah, right? The Republicans are the party of Lincoln. The Republicans are the party of emancipation. The Republicans are the party of radical Reconstruction. The Republicans are the party of the 14th and 15th Amendments. So this is important because it shows black people shifting from Republican to Democrat in the New Deal. Yes?
Is this also when the KKK switched from Democrat to Republican?
No, great question. That will happen in 32 years from here, 1968. Because look, we still have the South. They're still voting Democrat. This is the Democratic Party of today. In the 1960s, because of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, they switched to Republican. So this is half of our new modern party system. A lot of you have been confused. I told you August 8th, forget everything you know about political parties. We'll get there. Here we are, almost there. So the last obstacle, some of the key parts of today, the last obstacle to FDR's progress and presidency was the Supreme Court. Now, has Congress tried to stop anything FDR did? No, they got in line like he asked them to. The Supreme Court has not. At the end of his first term and beginning of his second term, they ruled 2 very, very, very important acts of the New Deal unconstitutional. The NRA and the AAA. Now, the National Recovery Act told you as a manufacturer, and you as a manufacturer, and you as a manufacturer, this is how much you can produce. You can't produce any more than that. You have to pay your workers this much, and they only have this many hours in a day to work. The AAA told this farmer, that farmer, and this farmer, you can only produce this much corn, this much wheat, this much whatever, cotton. You cannot produce more. And those 2 acts were ruled unconstitutional because they limited what people could do. They limited the freedom of the market to produce whatever you wanted to produce. The court cases, the names aren't necessarily important, but they're up there anyway because it's important to get as many bullets in that factual chamber as possible. Schechter versus the U.S. for the NRA, and the U.S. versus Butler for the AAA. Now, question for you, Mr. Ventura. Does the Supreme Court have the right to rule a law or an act unconstitutional?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that kind of their job?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, for all the bonus points in the world, what is the court case that gives them that authority? 30 seconds, go. I know it's hard. It's bonus points. What is the court case that gives them the power to check constitutionality? I know you know. You know? Yes, Hector. Atta boy. I read lips. 8 seconds. It's a hard question. Yes. Well, too bad. If you don't know, you don't know. Let me call out some people, see where we're at. Let me hear from Amber. What do you think? I know, it's a hard one. It's okay. You don't know what it is? That's fine. Dominguez. I know. You never thought I was asking you a question about the end of August, did you? These things matter. Donna. Take a shot. What happens if you're wrong? You gonna fall through the floor to the wolves? Go.
I don't remember the name, but it's the one with the judiciary check, right?
Yeah. The judicial review. Cool.
There you go.
Ventura. Marbury v. Madison. Scarlett, what year? Oh, you're all nodding excited? Scarlett, what year? Take a shot. 1803. 1803, not bad. So, yeah. That's important because that's what gives our Supreme Court the legitimacy and the authority to check constitutionality of laws. And now here they are using that power, using that authority to stop FDR from doing whatever he wants. FDR is all butthurt about taking this L. He could have just moved on with his life and passed new laws and does not. His solution instead was to add more judges to the court. Because he doesn't like losing. I mean, besides losing his legs. Now, what? What can you think? Can you if you can't use them under the law? Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it? Anyway, he's asking Congress to appoint one new justice for every justice over 70 years old. Most of them. This controversial court-packing plan would add 6 new justices. All 9 justices, and FDR calls them the old white men, or the old white mice, were old white men. All 9 of them. Old as hell, white, of course, because it's America. And only 3 of them were sympathetic to FDR's program. They were liberal judges considered. 2 were in between, and 4 were conservative and were anti-New Deal progress. This is when the math comes in. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Yeah. Cool. If you have 9 judges, sorry to get up here for you.
Oh, wow.
You have 9 judges. How many do you need for a majority?
5.
Oh my God, you guys are good. 5 to 4. You guys still with me? Because that equals 9.
Yeah.
So 5 in favor, 4. Now in this case, how many are on FDR's side? 3. How many are opposed to him? 4. And how many are in the middle?
2.
Oh my God, you guys are freaking brilliant. I don't care what anybody else says about you. So in this case, every time an act or a rule was questioned for its legitimacy or its constitutionality, FDR had to hope these 2 sided with him. Because all it would take is one, you already have 4 no votes. All it would take is 1 no vote, and it spoils the deal. These guys, you could argue, are strict interpreters of the Constitution, and these guys are loose interpreters of the Constitution, and these guys are just figuring out how to read. They're not quite sure what they think about this whole Constitution thing. So he wants to add 6 new justices. Who appoints Supreme Court justices? The President does. So they would all be in line with his ideology. Ready for more math?
Yes.
So we have 3 and 2 and 4. Now we're going to have, if we add 6 justices, how many will we have in the Supreme Court now? 15. George, you're freaking good. So we already have these three. We have the 2 and we have the 4. Where can we assume the 6 are going to go? Yeah. So now, at worst, it's 9 to 6. At worst, it's 9 to 6. Maybe even 8 to 7 if one person does. The point is, yes, ma'am.
He gets permanent majority.
He gets a permanent majority in the Supreme Court. Congress is already lined up behind him.
Isn't that kind of like spoil system?
Yeah, but of an entire branch of the government. It's like the spoil system on steroids. For example, one of these 4s on this side, Justice Willis Van Devanter. Great name. You can tell he's an old white man. Look at that name. What you talking about, Willis? He was going to retire in 1932, but he was so worried about FDR's approach to the presidency, he stayed in his seat as justice to keep voting against FDR because he thought FDR was unsafe and unfit for the presidency. So FDR, rather than adjust his presidency, is now changing the rules as he goes. So let's look at 2 quick pieces. One defending FDR's court packing scheme, one attacking it. I'm going to give you 5 minutes total to read it. It's quick, get right to the point. And tell me, how did both use the structure of our government in their defense and critique of the court packing scheme? Read and go. Of course, it's your daily trip to the bathroom. It still is. Still is. So how do both use the same structures of government to attack and defend FDR? Minute or so left. How does one defend, one attack? Nobody now? Why? You want to find out? Statue of Liberty? Why are you turning purple?
I'm not sure.
20 seconds. That happened in the Progressive Era, 19th Amendment, right? 18th, 19th, 17th, 16th. Teddy sucks at wrestling. 17th. Taxes, senators, alcohol. All right. What is Harold Icke's defense of Roosevelt? On what grounds does he defend Roosevelt? Give it to me, please. Go for it.
He says that the people elected him because they wanted the social and economic legislation.
He said the people spoke. This is basically Icke's argument. The people have spoken. They want to eat what FDR is cooking. Public opinion is behind FDR. Who is the Supreme Court to get in his way? But to that I ask, is the Supreme Court supposed to give two you-know-whats about public opinion? No. Adrian, why not? Is the Supreme Court supposed to care about public opinion?
They only care about the Constitution.
They answer to the Constitution. Should Congress care about public opinion? Yeah. Should the President? Absolutely. But the Supreme Court is the one branch that is supposed to be isolated from public opinion because they are not elected. They don't even stand election. They are appointed for life for that very reason. They answer not to the people of the United States, but to the Constitution of the United States. To their interpretation of the Constitution of the United States. So in a sense, that argument falls on its face. How does Dorothy Thompson attack Roosevelt? What is her argument anti-Roosevelt? Give it to me, please, Ramos.
He states like the president will be looking as a different personal government for himself.
So one man, if we allow the president to be the president, that's his job. We watch Congress get in line behind him and offer no resistance. And if we allow him to then cherry pick what he does at the Supreme Court as well, then it's a one-man government. Yes, there's three branches, but when one person runs it all, it's much like my Articles of Confederation argument. A one-house legislature is just as easily corrupted as a single individual, liable to the vices of an individual. So if we allow one person to do whatever the hell they want with all three branches of government, we have no government at all. I think maybe comparing him to Hitler was a little strong, because FDR's not in the middle of, genocide, invading other countries. But in the late 30s, Hitler isn't either.
No.
He's not.
No.
Thank you, Ramos, World War II historian, for pointing out that I was correct. Thank you. So, it's important that we understand that this is always been the American fear. Two fears in America. Fear of mob rule and fear of monarchy and dictatorship and power in the hands of too small of a group or an individual. So we're always there in the middle. So the court packing scheme itself is legal. FDR's not breaking any laws, but it is a very scary precedent. If the president disagrees with the Supreme Court, he can just add as many justices as he wants to get his way. So he gets pushed back from the Senate. They refuse to work with him, and the Supreme Court defends themselves, saying, no, we're not ageist. No, we're defending ourselves against your ageism. We're not just old. You just don't like our interpretation of the Constitution. The crisis ends and both sides back down, FDR and the Supreme Court and Senate, when the court declares two of FDR's favorite acts, the Wagner Act, which is pro-labor union, and the Social Security Act, which is pro-old people getting pensions. They declare those constitutional because they don't put any limits on what people can produce. That was the big problem, is telling people what they can and can't produce. They say those are constitutional, FDR's happy, and then the old guy, Judge Van Devanter, resigns. FDR eventually appoints 5 justices out of the 9 to the Supreme Court in his 4 terms. It's partially because all the justices were old anyway, and also because FDR was president for like 74 years. So eventually a lot of them died and retired. So that means that all his judges are going to be more liberal, correct? Which means the Supreme Court in the 50s and 60s, you'll see it next unit, has a very liberal twist. Very liberal twist. Brown versus Board of Education. Roe v. Wade, women's abortion rights, school integration. So because of this precedent, a lot of the stuff down the line matters for a long time for liberalism. Cool. So now I have 4 really good cartoons, shockingly. Really, yeah. They should be, a couple that should be familiar. So we're going to do just speed rounds of point of view. What is the point of view of each cartoon? I'm going to give you 1 minute for each to talk to your partner. We'll break it on the board and we'll go from there. Here's the first. 1 minute, go. Speed rounds. Talk to your partner. What is this point of view? Good. Good. Not just here, which part though? Yes.
And I fell asleep.
You fell asleep?
My leg fell asleep.
Your leg fell asleep because your foot doesn't reach the ground.
Well, no, blinded. Wow.
30 seconds. What is this point of view? What is this cartoon trying to get across?
Okay.
You still always look so scared when I call them.
This is the one.
You confident with
Oh, yeah. You remember? This is the one that you got confused on. It's just okay. Think of it like how I told you, like the King Andrew.
Yeah, I
where,
get
like,
it now because you know.
With the terrorists and nullification. One nullification.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right. Stop yourselves. TR, what is the point of view of this cartoon?
The point of view comes from an anti-FDR.
And therefore a conservative. Good, good. Why?
Because it's basically saying that FDR is working his way up to becoming a dictator.
Good. So if you're going to integrate this into a DBQ, you would argue the conservative view of the cartoon points out, and then I'm checking your boxes, boom. Not only did you use the document, you analyze the document for purpose and point of view. See, we're getting better at these things. What examples do we have of government reorganization? New agencies, new projects, works progress. That was one step, but the real close to dictatorship step is the Supreme Court change, the court packing. So the thing it's really upset about is the court packing scheme. I know this is a false cartoon because it's implying that FDR can climb a flight of stairs.
Oh my God.
He needs one of those chair lifts, no big deal. Question. What cartoon does this remind us of from other parts of AP US history? Go. What time? Which cartoon?
The one where it depicts him as a king.
Sure, there's that one. There's a better one though. Because you're right, that's a really good one. Go.
Is it the beetle of the bank where it like shows him like having control of the pillars, which signified like Congress?
That was a good one. You're the right era. Go.
With terrorists and like
Nullification is the one. With Calhoun, remember? Nullification, and the next thing you know, you have anarchy, then despotism, and Calhoun's reaching for the crown. So that's funny because nullification is not enough government. That when you let states do what they want, you have no structure, and the next thing you know, you have anarchy. This is arguing too much government. You give the government too much power, you get. So this is my point about American history. Is our two biggest fears are mob rule, nullification, letting states do what they want, or tyrannical presidents that take too much power. Both cartoons have the exact same message, but from two very different angles. But yes, 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 and then yes. That's what I'm looking for, those three. Next one. Same minute, go. Right?
Oh, I get it. So it's basically showing, like, he's trying to have like the judicial branch in favor of the
God.
which is like why he like
his face when I made the
falling. Yeah.
Oh.
I look so mad.
We need to get FDR an elevator like Terry. Terry's living that good life. I mean, yeah. You live in an apartment?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, the third floor apartment. What if you had a third floor apartment? That would life my point. My point is life could always be worse. 6 seconds. Jimenez. Yeah. Conservative want less government, liberal want more aggressive government. All right. Yeah, I don't know what the bird's doing. I'm not really not sure about that. I think it's one of the artists. I think it's one of his like signature things that he puts in there. Brajas, what you got for me? Good. I totally agree. This one you can interpret two ways. Either FDR is being a jerk for trying to convince them to agree with him, but somebody in first period pointed out that the judicial branch looks old and dark and off to the side and like not into the world around him. And FDR looks big and leaderly and excited, and he's of course bigger than the legislative branch. So yeah, I think it's the anti-judicial branch, like you said. Well done. And I don't know what the bird is doing, but it's also the bird is also marching to the beat of FDR's drum. It's a cute little bird. Who puts sunglasses on a bird? This guy. All right, next one. And this one might look familiar from its artistic type. 1 minute, go. What is the point of view here? It is Dr. Seuss. Oh, there's way more. Don't you worry. But most Dr. Seuss stuff is World War II based. It's hard to find the earlier things. Yeah, it's good. This is a really good cartoon. I know, I say that a lot.
They're all your favorite.
It's like having kids, right? You can't have favorites. They're all your favorites. Let's have a kid like Jonathan Brahma with so much kids. Yes. Well, is he implying that, or is he saying FDR's doing that? Yeah. 20 seconds. Oh. What's the freaking point of view?
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah, because you went on this like little world tour. Whose pencil is that? Is yours? All right. So, what is the point of view of this cartoon, Jesus?
Basically making not fun of, but like judging the way that FDR picks people, or just like him, they're only picking him, so it's like not fair.
Is it pro or anti-FDR?
Anti.
Anti. Right? It implies that the only thing you have to do in the Supreme Court is do what? Say yes. Because here's FDR. Great. Now once more all together. Yes. In the trash can, the scales of justice. Because that's how you always simplify the justice system, because justice is fair. Scales don't lie. And the Constitution. Right? Arguing that FDR is violating the Constitution, violating the justice system by trying to put on all these people for the judge system. Yes?
Those were the 6 people he added.
Those are the 6 that he wants to add, yeah. He doesn't add them. Our Supreme Court still has 9 to this day. But that's the 6 that he wanted to add, and that's one of the reasons he loses such credibility. And the fourth one, 1 minute. Well, yeah, it's nice to see little Dr. Seuss in our lives. A little Oliver Twist joke. Please, sir, can I have some more? But, sir. Can I break it? Good for me.
Yeah, wait, but there's this part, it said right here.
Sometimes you feel like you just got to kick Jonathan Ramos' pencil against the wall. Surprised, that's all to do PS4 if you don't do your homework.
Look, he's
You
in
saw,
power.
you see that kick? I got a very powerful leg. I don't skip leg day. All right, let's hear from Georgie. What's the point of view here, sir? Anti-FDR, why? I agree.
Because he's asking for more power to the executive branch.
And who's giving it to him?
Congress.
Yeah, right? Here he is, he's already has more power. How much bigger he is than Congress? More, please. A little Oliver Twist joke. Please, sir. Can I have some more? Have you guys ever read Oliver Twist? Never mind that. Oh, you watched the movie? In that case, who needs to read a book? That's our president's excuse. Now, it's important that we understand that he simplifies the executive branch. He's reorganizing the government with more power to the executive. So the New Deal declines post his second election for a couple reasons. One, his court packing plan. Again, like I said, he should have just taken the L and moved on. By trying to pack the court, he makes Congress angry and not trusting of him anymore. Congress gets a little bit out of line from behind FDR and starts standing up for themselves. Because that makes them as a branch look weak. We see a recession in the economy in 37 and 38. It's called the Roosevelt Recession, which weakened confidence that the New Deal could actually end the Depression. We stop a little bit of the extra spending in the Works Progress Administration. We stop the government spending of Keynesian economics. We take a little bit of our foot off the gas there, and the economy falls off the rails, showing that the economy is not fixed. When the government stops spending and things don't stay recovering. Because of anytime you have a financial panic or a financial downturn, the other side always gains seats in Congress, bless you. So because of the recession in 1938, Republicans get back more control of the House and the Senate. To counter this, FDR tries to get rid of conservative Democrats who don't support him, and that makes Democrats mad, and he loses some credibility there as well. So then we see conservative Democrats and Republicans gaining power in the Senate and Congress, which then they start voting against some of the FDR stuff he does. So it all starts with court packing, and then the financial downturn of 37 and 38, and the elections of 38, which give Republicans and conservative Democrats power in Congress, which then loses this big mandate that he has. The war powers Congress has given him to do whatever the hell he wants. That all is combined with the U.S. beginning to focus more on foreign affairs. Focusing more on Europe and what to do about that instead of what's happening at home. Excellent. Excellent. So by 1937, Roosevelt's facing criticism that the New Deal, like you guys read in the Do Now, is too expensive. It doesn't end unemployment, and it hasn't ended the Depression. This is unemployment right here, as we can see. Unemployment was super high when he took office. It was. And it's gradually decreased, which is good. The minute we start limiting government spending on all these programs, the Works Progress Administration being the most important of them because it employed 10 million people, the minute that stops being spent so much money on, unemployment goes back up. That shows that our economy is not fixed and it still needs training wheels, which means, like, what is the New Deal really doing if when the minute the government stops spending money, the economy falls apart again? Here's another anti-FDR cartoon. He keeps pouring money into this pump, the New Deal pump, but it's just leaking money everywhere. Who's really bearing the burden? The taxpayer. More and more money being poured into the economy, and $16 billion has been spent. None of it's fixed the pump. So FDR backs off. We stop quite spending so much money in 1937-38, and unemployment quickly goes back up. Showing, again, the economy is not fixed. the New Deal clearly was not stimulating the economy enough to end the Great Depression. So 1938 sees the end of the New Deal. Other than the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's no real second term New Deal programs. His court packing plan hurts his relationship with Congress, so Congress stops approving everything he wants to do. And the Roosevelt Recession is a result of him trying to balance the budget, spend less money. That shows, however, that the economy is not fixed, the New Deal is not solving all of the problems, and employment is still going to be a problem. As I pointed out, the Roosevelt Recession is cut back in deficit spending and Keynesian economics of spend until the economy works again. And this elimination of some New Deal programs meets the recession. By 1939, we passed the Hatch Act, an important act that makes it clear that no employee of the executive branch in the bureaucracy can advocate in favor of one president or another, or one political candidate or another, as largely as a result of some of the worries about FDR becoming dictatorial. Also, we're becoming, as I pointed out, concerned with international problems. And now the government is a little more focused on preparing to fight World War II than they are fixing the Great Depression. So here's our numbers. According to this, did the New Deal end the Great Depression? No. Did it make a dent? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Impacts. What changes for our country as a result? Physical rehabilitation. A lot of the New Deal focuses on conservation, on saving the physical nature of our country. The Tennessee Valley Authority damming up all of that over farming and making sure that we could preserve that area. The Agricultural Adjustment Act, stopping overproduction. The Civilian Conservation Corps, sending young men into work on conserving the environment. Very important. It also showed impact with human rehabilitation. The government taking care of human needs. The Works Progress Administration getting people to work that need it. Social Security giving old people the resources and the pension they need. And arguably most important, it shows political rehabilitation of the system. People now look to the government for answers. Right? It reminds people why our government matters so much. People look to the executive branch as the solution to their problems, as answers for their needs. And big picture, in a world in which democracies are dying everywhere, all over Europe, much of Asia, that are falling into dictatorial governments, the New Deal shows that democracy could evolve. That democracy wasn't a strict, rigid, stuck system, but rather when crises came, democracy and with it capitalism could evolve to fit the changing needs of the people. If democracy and capitalism were stuck and rigid, like so, then the Great Depression would have broken them. We wouldn't have America as America is anymore. But by being able to evolve to the changing needs of society because of how big the Great Depression was, it showed that democracy would maintain, capitalism would maintain in a modified form to fit the needs of what's happening in the world around us. We're going to look at unemployment, which shows obviously it's way up when FDR takes over. It drops some. It goes back up in 37, 38, and it really doesn't end up dropping all the way below 20% until the war economy. Not that we're in World War II when we start supplying World War II. Our gross domestic product, how much we're creating, goes to its lowest in 33, comes up, FDR cuts the budget, and then only comes back up because of World War II. And same with industrial production. Down, up and down, up and down, up to where before, higher than it was before, until FDR cuts the budget. Then it almost drops down to its second or third lowest point, and then back up with the war. So all these data points just demonstrate to us the importance of actually World War II and ending the Great Depression. So let's talk about the successes and failures. The New Deal only lasts 5 years, and the majority of laws come in two quick bursts. The first 100 days and the second 100 days, in both 33 and 35, which are both in FDR's first term. Economically, moderately successful. It gets people to work some. It gets people what they need some. It helps relieve suffering. People's lives are more bearable, but the Depression as a whole is not over. Big problems there is wealth is still distributed in an incredibly unequal way. The rich are still really rich. The poor are now just poorer than they were before. Despite all these numbers, we have 12 million unemployed when he takes office. It's only 10 million in 1939. It's only a 2 million difference. Once we stop all those programs that are employing everybody with the government, the Works Progress Administration, Civilian Conservation Corps, there's no real other jobs for them to work. So the economy is not fixed from a numbers standpoint. Socially, I'd argue it's more successful because it creates this social legacy of the government taking care of people that need taken care of, the Social Security Act for old people, the Wagner Act for labor unions, the Fair Labor Standards Act for minimum wage and working conditions and working hours. All that stuff matters from a social perspective. The elderly are supported, the disabled are supported, labor unions are supported, workers are supported, but only if you're a white worker. New Deal doesn't do anything to help women, minorities, domestic workers, or small farmers like many of these African Americans in the South. Doesn't do anything to end sharecropping, for example. And I'd argue its biggest impact is politically, as I already pointed out, because it demonstrates a new unified democratic voting bloc with black people included. And leadership and optimism and hope being exuded from the White House makes a big difference for the American people. All right, people don't give up hope during the Great Depression because of FDR, but they were ready to give up hope at the end of Hoover's presidency. Hoover. It helped citizens endure the Great Depression, and then the citizens are still believing in their government, which is one of the only reasons that they support World War II, because they believe in their government. Cool. So we're going to hit pause for a moment. We're going to write a quick thesis and contextualization statement, please, to the problem we're thinking about all day. Yeah, only in small bit. So we're going to do this. It's going to take us about 9 minutes. And then we'll come back, we'll wrap up isolationism, and we'll move on with our day. Sure. Then you just finish at lunch if you need to. All right, so I need you guys quiet.
26.
All right, Join. How much does the New Deal change the role of the federal government in the economy and society? So you're only going to have 4 minutes to write this with context. Try to get right to it if I were you, but it's good practice. So just tell me, answer the full prompt. If it takes you 3 sentences, great. If it takes you 5 sentences, great. But you're writing on your own, and then we'll look at the short answer question practice, and then we're done with the Great Depression. Cool? Right. No time to waste. Include your context, what's the situation, what's the setting, do it after your thesis if you need to. Whether it works or not isn't the question. Again, guys, we're not asking you if the the New Deal or the Great Depression worked, but rather how much does it change the role of government, what the government does in our lives. How much does the New Deal change the role of the government in the economy and society? It's good practice. You expect one of these every day from now on. Stay in the lunch. You want to hang out with me? All right, take 30 seconds, wrap up your last thought there. If you're not quite done, it's okay. I can give you a little more time later. I should make sure we finish isolationism. Take 30 seconds. Because I want to show you the cartoons for the short answer question. Messed up. All right, it's okay. If you need a couple more seconds later, don't worry about it. I should make sure we get through everything we're supposed to. We can say it in 3 minutes into lunch and finish right if you need to. So your short answer question has 2 cartoons, and it's simply asking you what is the difference in historical perspectives in the cartoons. What backs up the first one? What backs up the second one? Here's the first cartoon. It's a little hard to see. But I see billions of government spending with billions of dollars of government debt while the taxpayer is drowning because of the deficit. And the taxpayer is asking for the government to come back and help them as they're drowning in debt from government spending. Would you argue this is pro or anti-New Deal? Anti. How is this pro? People are drowning in loans of Jesus Christ, Vargas, get out of here. The second cartoon has FDR standing, interestingly enough, talking to the forgotten man who has a pickaxe in his hand, and he's saying, yes, you remembered me. Yeah, a little more pro. So take just a quick 4. I don't need a thorough examination, but tell me what's the difference in perspectives. What events or developments back up that one? That the New Deal is failing because of too much government spending. It's a couple of easy things to pick from. And what's the backup for here that shows, yes, the New Deal did remember the forgotten man? Cool? Time's ticking, go. So what's the difference in historical? That's basically asking what's the difference in point of view, what backs up the first one, what backs up the second one. About 2 or so minutes left. What type of events back up the first perspective? What type of events back up the second perspective? So easy couple of things I just talked about to back up both. Engaging. 2 minutes. And again, this is way faster than what will happen on May 11th, but it's good to get practice as aggressively timed as possible. All right, set that to the side for now, but I'm collecting you before you leave, so if you need to stay an extra 2 or 3 minutes, stay an extra 2 or 3 minutes. Now go back to your notes, please. It's important that we understand that while all of this is taking place depression-wise, at the tail end of the 30s, a world war has broken out. And the U.S. is choosing to kind of mind their own business, at least to start with. So, pre-World War II, because of depressions all over the world, specifically Europe and Asia, Americans are worried that out of the ashes of depression would rise dictatorships. Americans are correct. Because of the worry of what ends up actually happening with people like Hitler, how does he get power? Promise of economic stability. Mussolini, same idea. Franco, same idea. Stalin, a new financial system, a communist revolution. Right? A lot of these dictatorships rise from economic turmoil. When people don't have a job, they get desperate. They're more likely to listen to things that are more radical, like fascism, like communism, etc. So, in the midst of the Great Depression, in FDR's first and second terms, Congress is passing a series of Neutrality Acts, because they see what's coming. In these acts, it makes it illegal for any company to sell weapons or goods to any nation at war. You're at war, we can't sell anything to you. You're at war, we can't sell anything to you. Because the thinking is, if we stay neutral, we don't sell with anybody at war, we won't be dragged into it like we were in World War I. Making it illegal to sell to any nation at war if what you're selling is a war good. This Neutrality Act will keep us out of any war and will guarantee that our trade is safe and we're good to go. We're not fighting with anybody. Roosevelt preferred a more active response to the rise of dictators. We're not going to read it right now in the interest of time for your guys' own benefit. And he gives a very important speech titled his quarantine speech. Now, just from a verbal standpoint, what does it mean to quarantine something, anything? What? To clean, kind of. To isolate, right? So that it can't spread. So he's arguing that there's these dictators coming to power in Europe. Our job as nations that love peace should try to make sure they are isolated, they don't spread. Much of Europe chooses to ignore what he has to say, with like the Neville Chamberlains in Great Britain of the world, who are just appeasing and letting Hitler do whatever he wants because they're so worried about another world war. And this appeal for quarantine falls on deaf ears, and none of the world powers listen. Now, most of them don't listen because they say, like, well, maybe if you were in the League of Nations, that might help. But since the U.S. never joined the League of Nations, because Wilson had his stroke and fell apart, the League of Nations is largely powerless to stop the expansion of the Hitlers and the Mussolinis of the world. So the war starts. The U.S. still maintains their neutrality, but they change their Neutrality Act to what's called the cash and carry policy. Very important. So jump on down below that text. Now, the cash and carry policy is just what it says. Any of the allied nations. So, here we are picking a side. It's a side that doesn't have Hitler on it. Good for you, America. Any of the allied nations could buy war goods from our country under two conditions. They pay cash, and they carry it home themselves. This keeps us out of the problem of World War I, where we had loaned all that money to one side, so then we needed them to win to get our money back. And we were the ones shipping it, so when the German submarines attacked the commerce, we were the ones losing. The Lusitania being one of the main ships that sinks, as well as dozens of others. So now we're saying, like, yeah, we'll trade with you as long as you buy it cash, not on credit, not on loans, and you ship it yourselves. But again, we're siding with one side. Yes, Terry? We're good? I got 10 minutes. This policy allows the U.S. to aid one side without getting too involved in the war, without having to send their ships, without having to send any loans or goods. And then this is what turns us into a war economy, which is this policy is what begins digging us out of the Great Depression. Because now we can sell as much stuff as possible to Great Britain, to France until they fold, like France in every war in the first 7 days. And then to a smaller extent, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, and the USSR. All the anti-Italy, anti-Japan, anti-Germany countries in World War II. So at this point, we're neutral, but are we neutral? No, because we're supporting one side, but we're not doing the active supporting, we're just selling stuff. It's important. In 1940, FDR runs for his third term, and he wins by, as you can see, kind of a lot. He runs and says to America, like, this is not, I know third terms are crazy. I know this is wild. I know George Washington is pissed, but he's dead, so let's do something a little more productive and active. We're in the middle of the Great Depression and about to be a world war, so we probably shouldn't change leadership right now. He's like, guys, I promise, I'm not trying to be a dictator. It may just seem like that. Things are about to hit the fan. And America kind of agrees. His platform is neutrality but preparedness. We're staying neutral, but we're getting ready. As you can see, he loses a lot of support from 36. Hey, don't worry, he still loses Vermont and Maine. I know, he can't just get over the hump with those two states. But he also loses a lot of the Midwest and a lot of the old Democratic strongholds of the West. Keep in mind, these are the areas in the middle of the country that don't care about the war. Because Japan's way the hell over there. Germany's over here, who cares? I'm just in North freaking Dakota, hanging out in Mount Rushmore. Minding my own business. This is a fantastic cartoon which shows him at a fair. Playing that game where you have to knock over the little, whatever it is, the things. He's already knocked off one candidate, then a second candidate. Here's his third election. We got Washington on this guy's head. No third-term tradition. And FDR throws the ball and kills him too. So FDR gets a third term as president, and this is also very important at the beginning of his third term. He does the first time ever a draft of soldiers during peacetime. The U.S. is not in the war, but they are now drafting soldiers. Because our military is pathetically small post-World War I. We have like 18 dudes and a donkey. It's like the South before the Civil War. So our military is very small. FDR doesn't want to get caught with his pants down. Make another joke, never mind. And in this case, we have for the first time a draft during peacetime. I still got 7 minutes. Good to go. Nice of you for joining us. In 1940, France falls. Why? Because they're France. France falls to the Nazis, showing that appeasement, letting Hitler have what he wants, in return for the promise of him not taking any more, doesn't work. It doesn't work. So France falls, and now literally all that's left, in terms of Allied powers in Europe, are a struggling Soviet Union that already has about 11 million dead people, and Great Britain, our best friend in the world. All that's left is Great Britain and the Soviets, who we don't even really like that much. And we're worried. Now we're not worried about getting in the war. We're worried the war might end before we even get into it. And the Nazis will control all of Europe, and fascism will take over all of Europe. And now we're the only capitalist country left in the world, and now nobody's going to trade with us because we're the only capitalist one. So we amend our policy again. This time because England needs more help than ever because they're the last country standing, and they are under constant bombardment by the German Air Force in the Battle of Britain, showing they need our help more than ever. This is when you guys saw, anybody you guys see Dunkirk? Of course you saw Dunkirk. Maybe we'll watch that after the test as well, but it shows the Battle of Britain and the fact that the British are kind of by themselves fighting the Nazis. You see London is getting burned out every single night. People are hiding and sleeping in subway tunnels. Churchill is still fat and smoking cigars and drinking whiskey like Churchill was known to do, and I love him for it. And their promise is we will never surrender, the British, but in order to not surrender, they need support, they need help. And that's where we step in with our most aggressive pre-war act of the Lend-Lease Act. Instead of cash and carry, now it's lend, borrow, and lease, borrow. This act allows the U.S. to send war supplies to allied nations, and even transport these goods on our own ships that are now armed and going across the Pacific and Atlantic. This is the opposite of neutrality. This is full economic warfare. And we've gone now from neutrality to cash and carry to lend-lease. The next logical domino to fall is war. Much of the war is being fought with our materials before we're even there. This then reminds us a lot of World War I. A lot of World War I. We can see we loan a bunch to China, Australia, and New Zealand, but only 1.4 billion. Only 1.4 billion. That's how you get out of the Depression. To Africa and the Middle East, it's 1.8 billion. To the Soviet Union, it's 3 billion, and to the Great British, it's $5.25 billion of goods and loans and supplies. So we're already using U.S. ships, U.S. planes, U.S. guns, U.S. tanks, U.S. weapons, U.S. food is feeding the soldiers, U.S. textiles are clothing the soldiers before a single U.S. soldier gets involved in the actual war. You can see half of what we're selling is weapons and supplies, 12% or so is services, 20% is industrial materials, and then another 13% is food. So we're already supplying the war effort all over the country, all over the world, before we even get involved. Before we even get involved. So yes, we are ignoring fascist Germany and imperialist Japan, but we are supporting the effort from a logistical standpoint. Now I'll end today with 3 fantastic cartoons from our good friend Theodore Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss. And I want you to figure out, what is he pointing out about U.S. policy? All 3 are on your page. Take the last 2 minutes of class and figure out what is the point of view of these cartoons regarding American foreign policy at the outbreak of World War II. If you have not yet finished your short answer question quiz there and your thesis, you can finish that right now as well. I need that for a grade before you leave. More specific here. You guys only have like 6 chapters left in APUSH. Thank God. You know what you've learned? It's 2. Oh, shut up. I gotta create it all. I gotta read it all. And you're a student. It's good for you, Rodas.
Thank you.
No problem. Next one. No, you can end on that. Go to.